everybody. So I didn't do a live stream this week because my mom's in town.
Oh.
So we're gonna do a little story time because last time we did some conversation about like fish keeping when I was a kid and stuff with Grandma. After we were done, you told me a story about how you kept fish in college and when you were going between college and coming back home, all the different little things you had to do.
Oh.
So I think people will get a kick out of it.
Okay. So I went to the University of Washington. Yay, Huskies. And living in the dorms, I got a teeny tiny fish tank and got some neon tetras. And they kept me company. So I've never been without pets my entire life. Dogs, cats, fish, rodents, lizards, everything. So I could not live in the dorm without something. And when it would come time to do a water change, my roommate worked at the hot dog stand, so she brought me home a giant mayonnaise jar that I would transfer them into. I didn't have a net, so I just used my teaspoon that I use for my tea in the morning. And occasionally they would jump out of the teaspoon and I would chase them around on the table. But I never lost any.
Did you have a heater in that tank at all?
No, it just sat in the window.
Okay, so you had, and Seattle, especially back then, didn't really get super hot.
No, or cold.
And you're probably, I can't imagine your room temperature in a dorm was all that warm.
It was fairly warm, probably 70.
But then you're not talking like most of the time we hear like neon tetras need to be like 74 or 76, and if the ambient temperature is 70, the water is not more than about 78 or 68.
Yeah.
So just
didn't bother them.
So that's interesting. Maybe we can do neon tetras cooler than the more common knowledge of nowadays wants to tell us.
Yeah, I just had an airstone. It's the only thing I had.
Just an airstone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now. Okay, so you're using a teaspoon and a mayonnaise jar to do your cleaning and water change work.
Yeah.
What about when you need to leave campus to go home between quarters?
So, I didn't really leave during the quarters, and I was only in the dorm 1 year. So at the end of the year when I needed to go home, I would take the Greyhound bus home. That's how I got home. And so I filled up the mayonnaise jar with water and put the fish in it and put a lid on it and carried it on the Greyhound bus home to Yakima, 180 miles away.
Did you ever get any weird looks carrying fish onto a bus?
I tried putting it in a bag, but I still want to know what was in the bag, and so I just carried it in the jar. And I don't think they got car sick or bus sick.
How long did you have the neon tetras?
Oh, 9 months at school. And then I took them home and put them in the aquarium at home.
But about how long do you think they lived overall?
Oh, at least a year, maybe 2. Hard to tell because, when I took them home and put them in the tank, there were neon tetras there already, so can't tell.
Couldn't tell whether it was the same fish or not.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to think, like, with it being unheated, tetras don't have super long lifespans. And they're almost always, especially back then, they were definitely wild caught. So you never know how old they are when they get to you.
No.
So I'm just trying to think of like how long filter kicked on. It does that filter, the FX6 for the Guppy Mansion. It's like once or twice a day. It turns itself off because it helps purge air out of the canister, and then it turns itself back on. It's what they call their smart pump. And I can't tell you the number of times I've been doing something in here, and it's just like, stop. When it kicks back on, It's like, oh, right, that thing.
Yeah.
It will distract you at times. So with the fish, though. I literally just fed everybody before we started this, so they're all pretty active.
Happy.
Did you keep fish at any other schools? Because I know you didn't go to University of Washington the whole time. You finished at University of Washington for your degree.
Yeah. Well, I went to the UW for 1 year of undergrad, and then I went to Central Washington University for 1 year of undergrad, and then went back to the U to go to pharmacy school. The second year of college, I spent the first quarter in Ellensburg, living in Ellensburg, but then I commuted from Yakima to Ellensburg. So it was the fish that were at home.
Okay, so you're not having fish other than that one period of time in the dorm?
Right.
Okay. Still interesting, because to me, I think about all of the common wisdom nowadays that's out there, whether it's on the internet or online, in videos with dummies on the internet like me, where it's you have to keep your neon tetras at least 74 degrees. Very frequently we're you need to be more tropical temperatures, they need to be warmer. You probably need a filter.
Well, maybe you don't have to listen to all that.
And you weren't using plants or anything, right?
No.
So is it just a pretty much bare tank? Do you have an ornament, gravel?
There's an ornament and a little bit of gravel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got surface area for beneficial bacteria to live, but just an air stone to move the water and keep it oxygenated. Yep. That's for me, I'm such a tech nerd that I happily have tech all over the place. That even when I'm trying to downsize my tech, whenever I can do the garage, it's still kind of fancy and technical. Yeah. So it's kind of fun to think about the difference in fish keeping before I knew what I was doing.
Right.
Because as a kid, right, we had lots of fish tanks, but I was totally not knowledgeable about the other things other than yes, occasionally you have to change water and you need to feed them.
Yeah. Well, when I was young, my dad would take us fishing, and once I caught the same sunfish 3 times in a row. And so finally we just put him in the bucket of water so I wouldn't catch him anymore, and we took him home, and he lived in the fish tank for 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's interesting because to me, while I'm totally the epitome of this, I don't understand why more people don't keep some of the native fish. Because there's all sorts of sunfish, darters, shiners that are beautiful, that are all throughout the United States. And even the most common sunfish are what we get in Washington. But there's stuff like the pumpkin seed sunfish they're beautiful, that are more toward the East Coast. But we don't keep them. Now, granted, I'm kind of a hypocrite in that sense because I keep rainbow fish and guppies and angelfish, but it's one of the things that I've been looking at is I kind of want to do a more native tank, but you have to keep them a lot cooler, which is easy when you're no heater, just an air stone. Perfect.
Well, the tank he was in had, heater and everything, filter.
About how big did it get? Do you remember?
Oh, about this big.
Like a dinner plate.
Yeah.
One other story. I want to see how well you remember this from when we were getting all the fish tanks out of the house, when we'd stopped keeping fish, but before Henry lived with us for a little while, when he and I had that fish tank.
Yeah.
We had the big, I think it was 125 gallon tank that was out in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
But for a long time, it still had water in it. Do you remember why?
It had 1 beta in it.
Well, not a beta.
Wasn't it?
That got too cold for beta. Sure. We kept the betas in that. Remember, we had that divided tank in the house. It was one of the last tanks we kept was the little... I think it couldn't have been more than a 10 or 15 gallon tank that had the 2 dividers in it.
Yeah.
And we had that one beta that would keep jumping all the way to the complete other side. It would leave the beta in the middle alone. Go all the way from the left to the right, bully it, and then jump back.
Yep.
We've never killed it, but just would go pick a fight and then go back. Always left the guy in the middle alone. Yeah. It was just like, there he goes again. We had a goldfish, remember, that I won at one of the Puyallup Fair. And that thing, the water was like pea soup. It was so green.
Yeah, now I remember, yeah.
And you couldn't... It was happy as a clam. And then we gave that tank to Aunt Chris, and she took the goldfish with her. Went in pristine water, didn't live much more than like 3 months after that. Which I always thought was kind of strange, because it was like, well, we weren't trying super hard. I mean, we fed him and all that kind of stuff, but it was like, we weren't trying to keep him in perfect conditions, because we knew we were getting rid of the tank. Yeah. And people are probably going to think I'm horrible. Let's start talking about this one goldfish, but it's kind of like the atypical. You get a kid, they get their goldfish at some carnival or something, and it's like, and either A, dies immediately, or B, is an indestructible tank that no matter what you try to do, you can't get rid of that fish. Yeah. I mean, that was ours. Ours was the indestructible, because I think there was another year, I think before that, maybe it was a year or two before, when we went to the Yakima Fair. All the kids won goldfish. None of them survived. Mm-hmm. I don't even think they survived a week. And our family's pretty good at keeping fish. We know enough. We've been doing it for a long time. I
don't think their goldfish are very...
Well, they're just feeder. They're cheap feeder fish. It's not like the fancy goldfish that are out there, like the big fantails and stuff. But anyway,
we've always had cheap goldfish anyway, even when...
Yeah. I've always liked goldfish. Especially because there's some feeder goldfish somewhere that has cool patterns. Mm-hmm. That's pretty and looks almost like a mini koi somewhere. It's usually some shabunkin that got dropped in the group or something, but you find a pretty one and it's like, oh! I mean, back then they were like, what, $0.05 a piece or something? I mean, they were nothing. Yeah. They were cheaper than a Tetra, so why wouldn't you get the goldfish that looked good and was dirt cheap?
It was going to live a while, yeah.
Yeah, and often would live a while. Yeah. I remember so many things involving the fish, and there's a couple things that ring out, and the one is that one dumb goldfish that just, no matter what, or back when we had the big tank, and the little tank for the bettas, and that one betta that would always just jump over, beat up the guy on the other end of the tank, then jump back, because you'd never go in there and find him in the tank. Almost never. But this one poor beat up, hiding down the bottom corner.
Hiding.
For a couple weeks at a time, slowly heal him up, and then this jerk would decide to get a wild hair and go back over again.
I think we found him in there once or twice.
I mean, you had to have at one point. Because that's the only way we figured out what was going on. But I never remember seeing the fish in the other divided portion of the tank. I only remember it being ever in its side, mm-hmm. and then eventually you just see that one fish a little beat up in the fence.
Yeah. Or bettas. Yeah.
Yeah. The ones nowadays, they get some... I was down when I went to Portland, when I went to that auction, there was a guy who's a betta breeder down there, and from the back of the room all the way to the front, and we're in a moose lodge, which is not a small room, you can see the bright yellow and blue color on this koi style betta, and it was just like, if I didn't know that like my drive home was going to be at least 6 hours, I would be really wanting to get that fish. But it's just such a long drive where I'm like, that might be too stressful. Because I purposely did not take stuff to bring fish home with me so that I wouldn't bring fish home.
You have more than your fair share.
For now, yeah. I mean, there's a tank that's going to go right behind you. Now that I've cleared that space out, and then that tank's got to get broken down and rebuilt. But, yeah. Then I can put new fish in them because they'll have new tanks.
Mm-hmm. Think you'll ever keep koi again?
I wouldn't keep them indoors. And that's part of the problem, is I'd have to be able to build a good pond. If I could build a good pond, yes, absolutely. But then you also have to, in our area, you have to account for raccoons, herons. If you live close enough to water, river otters, because we get them quite a lot out here.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be set up to handle the predators too. The herons are the biggest problem.
You might need a corgi to run them off.
Well, it's probably some easier distraction techniques because the dog probably wouldn't be that good. He'd probably cheer the heron on, not knowing what he's doing. Anyway, want to have a little fun story time with Mom while you're in town.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys.
Bye.